Everybody, welcome to the 2024 Superman celebration. I'm so glad you all are here. Yeah. Big round of applause one more time for all the amazing people that put this event on that we love so much. We are about to start our second question and answer session of the weekend. This is the one I've most been looking forward to. Hopefully you all have been as well. So how many people in the crowd have seen Smallville? Place. So we're super excited. One of the guests that I've been waiting years and years to see on the guest list of the Superman Celebration website. Everybody give it up for Miss Kristin Kreuk. Awesome. Well, Kristin, thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be here.
We are so excited for you to be here. This is the biggest gathering of Smallville fans in one room you're probably going to see in a while.
Yes.
So tell us. Let's start with this. How did you start into the show? How were you cast? What was that process like?
Yeah, I mean, this is back in the olden days of, I think, 2001 or 2000 even. But they were doing a massive casting call because this was a big show. It was like a 13-episode pickup, which never happened back then. Now with streamers and stuff like that, it's more common. And so they were doing a casting call all over, I think, the world. And so there was a casting director in Vancouver, and I was new, and I was just auditioning for a bunch of stuff, and I went in and I read, and they liked me, so they brought me in to test, and I went to LA, which was my first time in Los Angeles ever in my life. My agent picked me up to take me to LA. And I met David Nutter and all the Warner Brothers people, and then I got the job.
So, did you have any idea of comic books or Superman lore? Did you have any background to that? Did you know what the show was about, or was this pretty cold turkey?
Well, my uncle had a comic shop when I was young. I wasn't really into comics. I was like, I read a lot of like the Bronte sisters, and when I was really little, it was like Anne of Green Gables, and it wasn't a world that I was really aware of at the time. Like, I obviously knew the stories, but I didn't like pick up a comic book and read it. But I knew what the show was about, and I knew the characters on the whole. I didn't know who Lana Lang was because she was not, the most famous of the characters. But I knew the basics, but that's about it.
Yeah, so was this a pretty early acting role for you? Or had you done a lot of stuff before this?
This was my third professional acting role. So I had done this show called Edgemont for the CBC in Canada, and then I had done an ABC TV movie of Snow White, and then this was my third job of my life.
How long did it take you before you knew how big of a deal this was? You said 13 episodes, and then obviously went on 10 seasons, and you were the bulk of that. So when did you start realizing that this was going to be a big deal?
No, the show aired, and it was a huge hit. They had, I forget, was it like 7-point-something million viewers, which was big. I mean, it's huge now, but back then it was big for the WB. And we started getting recognized. You'd walk down the street and people would know who you were, and it changed all of our lives very quickly. It was very obvious that the show was popular, and it was popular internationally. So I'd go to a museum in another country and I'd be chased down. The show was very popular. So it was kind of a shocking experience,
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to hog the microphone. I know we have, so we're going to, Supergirl here's with us. Round of applause for Supergirl. So hold your hands high in the air. She is going to bring the microphones around, and we'll try to get through as many as we can here.
Hello? Okay. I was going to ask, after season 4 being possessed by a witch, and then in 5 they told you were going to be a vampire for an episode, what were you like? What are they going to do to me next?
It became just a running joke, literally that. What are they going to do next? No, that's the fun thing about being on a fantasy show. You get to do crazy stuff. You can be possessed by a witch for a season of a TV show. You can become a vampire. You can be sprayed by a flower and act like a crazy person. There's an unlimited number of wild things you can do. And when you're doing 21, 22 episodes a season, you got to keep it fresh a little bit, right? So yes, it was always like, what is going to happen next? Oh, you're going to marry. I hope I'm not going to spoil. I know there were people that have not seen the show, but it's been off the air for a very long time. You're going to marry Lex Luthor, like all that stuff. It's just crazy.
Do you have a favorite of those crazy situations and circumstances? Do you have a favorite?
Well, maybe it's because I just did Talkville, but going back over the witch storyline, which was it is a ridiculous storyline. It was fun. It was so silly. But it's fun to do something that's so non-serious when a lot of the time everything's very serious.
Hi, Kristin.
Hey.
My question is, what was it like having Superman's powers in some episodes?
Yeah, that was fun. I always admired Tom's ability to play all of that stuff because it was silly in person, you know, when there's no effects and the person's just like, it looks pretty dumb. But he took it so seriously and he did such a good job. So having to do that stuff, and mostly mine was mostly physical stuff, but I enjoyed doing it. It was really fun. Thanks, yeah.
Well, thank you for being here. Did you have any emotions as it became obvious that Lana's character was going to be phased out for Lois, or did you think it was time to move on? Or did you have a mixture of emotions about it?
I didn't think about it, honestly, and I didn't think of it that way. I never did. I thought they were two different storylines, and I really struggle with the idea that one woman replaces another woman, and I struggle with the idea that these women's lives don't continue on and they aren't full of beautiful lives. So I don't know that she was replaced by someone else. I think that her connection to Clark changes and she builds her own future, and that's how I saw it anyway.
Hey, Kristin.
Hi.
Hey, so, you started on the show, and obviously Annette O'Toole was on there and had played Lana Lang previously. You kind of mentioned how you didn't really know a lot going in. So what was it like when you found that out and kind of had first interactions with her, and she's played the role before? How did that kind of happen, or like that I guess when you first learned that?
I've been asked this before, and I'm realizing now that I was an idiot when I was 19, and I should have talked to her about this, but I never did. I don't think I ever really considered doing that for some reason. Maybe I was shy, maybe I just didn't have the foresight, maybe I was just dumb. Like I didn't do that. I wish I did though, because Annette O'Toole, as you all know, is a fantastic actress. She's so good, and she's such a beautiful woman. She is the sweetest, kindest woman, and I just didn't have a ton of scenes with her, so I wasn't spending a lot of time on set with her, and maybe if I had, I would have felt more confident to ask her questions like that.
Kristin, thanks so much for coming. What an honor. There were several storylines that involved you with horses, and I know that your character was an accomplished equestrian. Is this something you knew beforehand and had spent time with horses, or something that you had to learn to prepare to act the part?
Oh, great question. I've actually never been asked that before. I did this TV movie, Snow White. Snow White also rode horses. So I learned to ride horses on that show with this great stunt coordinator, and he just took me out to his ranch, and I got on a horse, Western style, and just kind of like drove cattle around. He just said, go, and that's kind of how I started to get comfortable on a horse. And one of my best friends at the time was going to school in Deep Springs, which was like an all-boys liberal arts college, and you can visit them, and they had horses on the ranch, and we went out and just like booked it. Just like crazy riding these horses in the middle of the desert. So I got comfortable that way. And then for Smallville, I also did some more training and just got more and more comfortable on the horse. But I loved doing that stuff. I loved riding. And we didn't have drones back then, in the olden days, is the theme. We had helicopters. So the camera would be up in the helicopter and I'd be on the horse and we'd just be riding through those fields with the helicopter either chasing me or leading me. And riding a horse is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I looked forward to those days.
Hey, Kristin.
Hi.
So Michael Rosenbaum is known as this big prankster. I want to know what the best prank he played on you was.
Oh, Michael didn't prank me. Michael would never have dared prank me, I don't think. No, Michael and I had a great working relationship. He was, himself, so a jokester, and he was silly, but I feel like we really did serious work together, and we really enjoyed it, and he was very honest and open with me about it. We became really good friends, so I don't remember him ever pranking me. I feel like Michael got pranked more than everybody else on the show, though.
Did you ever prank Michael?
No, I didn't. I'm not a good pranking person.
So along with that, obviously an awesome selection of regular cast members, but a lot of cool guest actors that kind of came and went. Did you have a favorite kind of guest actor or somebody else that you got to work with that you didn't think you would?
Who did I work with? Lots of people. I mean, Amy Adams was on the show. I don't know if I had scenes with her. I know he doesn't count because he was on the show for a full season, but Jensen was a joy to work with. And Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Like, we had like some 90s icons. I just worked with Devon Sawa, y'all. So, that's 2 90s icons. I'm really winning. Who else did I work with? Do you remember?
A whole slew. Did you ever get to meet some of the, like Margot Kidder when she was on the show?
I never got to meet any of the classic Superman actors. That was they never crossed my path on the show. They were always in everyone else's storylines. So unfortunately, I never got to do that.
What about Ian Somerhalder?
Oh yeah, I worked with Ian for a while too.
Hello, speaking of actors, I see you guys at various cons together. Y'all get along, hang out, or is it just business?
Oh, we've become closer over the years. I mean, at least that's been true for me. Like, Michael and I were friends on the show, and like we'd have dinner when I was in LA or whatever. Tom and I got along really well as co-stars, but we never hung out outside of the show. So being on this convention circuit has been really nice, and I feel like I've gotten to know them all way better. And Erica and I, because we kind of were, ships in the night, we passed each other. We always got along, but she and I are friends now. We both live in Vancouver, and we just went out for lunch the other day, and we share our lives together. And we've got this Washington con that we're going to, and we'll drive down together. And she's my friend, and she's a beautiful, beautiful person, and I feel really lucky that I've been able to get to know her more deeply over these years. And I think a part of why that's happened is because of this, and partly because of you guys, which is pretty amazing. You've facilitated some beautiful relationships.
Hi, Kristin.
Hi.
You mentioned earlier that you were not very into comics before you played the role. So, just curious, how did you prepare to play the role? Just from my perspective, I was not very familiar with the character Lana Lang. Maybe others might feel the same way. I didn't really feel until Smallville the character was
Fleshed out,
well-known.
yeah.
Yeah, so how did you prepare for that role?
Okay, I'm gonna go back again to, I was a young person and I was very inexperienced. I took the scripts that I was given, and I think they gave us like a hardback kind of history of Superman kind of dealio, and I looked at that, but I kind of went with the idea that this story was its own story, and I was going to focus on the character that existed on the page as I could see her. In retrospect, would I have dug deeper? Maybe, because I think there would have been gems to be found in the history of the lore, but it wasn't where I was at that age. So I really looked at what was there, and I tried to build her from that point to the best of my ability. I would absolutely do it differently today. Thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Are you happy with how the character ended? Would you have changed that at all? Or if you could rewrite the script, is that how Lana would have ended in Smallville?
The way that Lana ended in Smallville, I liked based on the story that Smallville told. I liked that she got to have her independence and got to find a path forward for herself that was tied to what she believed in, her moral compass, her values. I liked that she got to separate herself from these men. If the show had been a different show, would there have been a different ending? Maybe, yes, but I like that because her stories were so tied to these, and really these two men and then other men too. There were so many men along the way. It was such a nice thing for her to honor herself.
Hey, Kristin.
Hi.
Would you ever be open to a Smallville reunion?
Like on camera, you mean?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this a lot. I think we're all open to it. I know that everyone's, we're not babies anymore, and the boys have been working on this animated thing for a million years now. I don't know what's happening with that, but that has been the main idea, I think, moving forward. You guys probably know more about what's happened with it. It's still in limbo. I don't know, but I think that is the path forward if it gets approved and if they move forward with it at all. But yes, of course.
Hi, Kristin.
How are you? Good, how are you?
Oh, good. How do you like our Metropolis?
Oh, it's great.
It's a little different than yours. I was going to ask you, I know you like to read. I know that's one of your big things. And I know you also like to volunteer and contribute. I was wondering, what are your passions right now in terms of reading and volunteerism?
Well, I just did this little event for youth mental health, which I think is really important. I don't know if you guys are all following all the studies and stuff that are coming out. There rise in anxiety and depression, and so I feel like it's important for us to focus on our young folks. Reading-wise, I just finished a book, actually, on anxiety in Gen Z, hilarious, or Z, wherever I am. And I just did a television series. I shot a television series that's going to air in the fall called Murder in a Small Town. And there's a book series with that. And the books are from like the 80s, 90s. So they're going to re-release them. And I've been looking at that too. And they're going to release audiobooks also. So, yeah. Yes.
Hi, Kristin.
Where are you?
I'm over.
Oh, yes. Hi.
I think you did a fantastic job on Smallville.
Thank you.
You mentioned some castmates, but I got a question for one that kind of got into some trouble and went on the dark side. Allison Mack, do you speak with her any?
No, I no longer speak with her. I think she's probably, I don't know. I don't know what she's doing. I don't know. But I hope that she's healing and that, she's doing well for herself.
Hi, Kristin.
Hi.
First, I wanted to ask about working with Patrick Cassidy.
Oh my God, I love him. Yeah.
And he had very deep Superman ties. Like his father was in the musical, and he was on Lois and Clark and Smallville.
Oh yeah, I didn't remember all that. He's so handsome. He was so lovely to work. I remember working with him and just really getting along with him, and the scenes felt easy. And, that was a while ago, but I do remember just being a joy to work with that man. Yeah, yes.
It probably comes from coming from an acting family.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that family's a legacy family, aren't they? Yeah.
And my second question is, any stories from the set of Burden of Truth?
Stories like how? Okay, so here's the thing. Canadian television has no money. We don't have a lot of money in Canadian TV. Thus, we have to shoot a lot of pages in a short amount of time, and so we're really going really fast, and it's hard to have like a ton of play or fun. So really on that show, the play came from our enjoyment of each other, because that was a tight-knit group of people. We were tight. And so mostly it was like giggling and laughing and going delusional and crazy, shooting night shoot court scenes from 5 p.m. when the courts would close till 7 a.m. and just like doing block shooting of massive amounts of dialogue when you're like delirious at like whatever 2 a.m. doing massive exposition. But like giggling the whole time. Like that's kind of the stuff that show is like. Oh, and like it's Winnipeg. So for those of you who don't know, Winnipeg's very buggy. And there was one year where we just had swarms of ladybugs, but they're fake ladybugs because they bite you. And I have this necklace. I've got a heart one on, and this was the necklace I got after season 1 from Burden of Truth. And it's just like a little ladybug on it from that season. Okay.
Hey, Kristin.
Hi.
Will you marry me?
I don't know you.
Serious question. I know you were in the movie EuroTrip. I really enjoyed your part in that movie. What was that experience like?
EuroTrip?
Yes, ma'am.
Goofy, as you would expect. Yeah, I went all the way out to Prague to shoot that. And that was a night shoot also. So, I mean, I had one day shoot and then I had a night shoot, which was really just what you saw in the movie. All night long, I just danced and made out with Matt Damon. Yep, that's my job, folks. And I danced so much I was sore the next morning. It was silly, and then I, hung out in Prague and went to these bars and had beer and watched bands. Like that's like all of my jobs like that are these funny little amalgams of the job itself and also the experience that I got to have doing the job. And I get to keep all those memories kind of in these pockets in my mind, which is really lovely. So people come and they say, Scotty doesn't know, and I have that, but I also have this life memory that I get to carry with me that I bring up almost every time that people come and talk to me about it. Huh? You want to go on a date?
He said his name's Dave.
His name is Dave.
Hi, Dave!
In case you wanted to write it down. Along with Prague, I'm sure as an actress you could go all over the place. Do you have a favorite shooting location or any other place you got to go that really stick out to you?
Yes, I did a really good movie called Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li.
Everyone watch it.
If you want to have a silly time, anyway, that shot in Thailand, and I got to live in Bangkok for a bunch of months, and that was wonderful. Hard shoot, but wonderful experience. And then I did a movie called Partition, and I shot in India, in Chandigarh in India, and then a little bit further up north, and I loved that also. And I shot then her in Morocco, so in the desert in Ouarzazate, and that was beautiful, and got to work with the lovely Alex Kingston, and yeah, I think she played my mom. But yeah, I've had some wonderful, I've been so lucky. I've been just so lucky, yeah.
Hi, Kristin.
Hi.
I also loved you in Beauty and the Beast.
Thank you.
Yes. Back to Smallville. Who's the better kisser, Tom or Michael?
Tom's never cared about this. Michael has been trying to get this out of me for I don't know how long. And I can never say. I can never. What would happen if I actually picked one of them?
That'd be awesome.
Probably the entire Talkville episode.
It would be, exactly. They're very different kissers. I think that's obvious from watching the show. So I guess it's preference. You can decide what you would prefer.
We'll bring him here next year. You can
Yes, they'll love that.
Hello. So this is a little bit of a deeper question.
Okay, that's fine.
But if you, Kristin, now could have a conversation with high school Lana, knowing the journey she's about to go through for the next 6 or 7 years, what would you tell her?
Me, Kristin now, Lana in high school. I don't know. Maybe. Oh.
Don't marry Lex.
What'd you say?
Don't marry Lex.
Yeah, sure. That would be one of the things not to do. But then she would have had to do a whole bunch of other things, because if she didn't marry Lex, wouldn't that have blown up? There was a whole thing that she had to marry Lex, wasn't there? Like, it wasn't like she did it just because she wanted to. Yeah, she had to like, again, yes, as he saved hers many times, the tragedy of their romance. Maybe, I don't know, part of me wants her to just avoid that tall, dark-haired, blue-eyed guy. Just avoid him entirely. I know he's beautiful and his heart's so good and but maybe if what would have happened if she just went to therapy and found a caretaker who wasn't Mel and like lived a normal life? What could have been?
So to piggyback on that, I think Lana's in Smallville is probably the character who goes through the most development. And you see a huge change in who she is, and you mentioned becoming a woman and what that means. And was that script, or was that you who kind of pushed those changes? Because I thought it was a lot of your acting.
Oh, thank you. I think it was both, as it always is. It's like a collaboration, but I think the writers were it was obvious that she needed to grow. There was no way that Lana could continue, and I think for everybody watching it too, it gets frustrating when a character keeps making the same mistakes over and over and over again, and it facilitates a certain kind of storytelling, especially when someone needs to be saved, and it propels that kind of storytelling. And if you need to keep characters apart romantically, which was very much what we were doing in those days, just keep them apart as long as you can. But it gets frustrating, so I think the writers helped build her, and also I helped build her, and also I got older. You know, like when you watch those first seasons, like I have a voice that's very, very quiet and small and whispery and weak, and as I get older, I kind of settle into myself, and I didn't make a choice to talk like that. I was just scared. And so as I got less scared, she got less scared, and we kind of grew together.
I was wondering, you had a lot of stunts and wire work. Did you do some of those stunts?
Yes.
Wire work?
Yeah, I love doing wire work.
Well, flying and stuff like that.
Yeah, I did. So, I mean, I guess, because I see what the boys are, so they did that China episode recently, I think, yeah. But I did a bunch of that wire work. You can tell because it's not perfect. And the stunties are much more perfect than I am at doing that stuff. But I love it. And because of my gymnastics training, I'm really good at maneuvering myself in the air. And I did Street Fighter, and I did a lot of the wire work in that too. And that was just so much fun. You just go to train every day. And I'm also pretty good at picking up choreography because of all of the dance and stuff that I've done, and you remember those things. So yeah, I did a bunch of that work. Always, we had stunt doubles too. Always. It was always both of us. But I think when you watch it, you can tell when it's me and when it's not me, because I'm not quite as good as they are. Oh, hi again.
Hi again. Did the show ever reach out to you about coming back for season 10?
Yes.
What happened?
There's no dirt. I just didn't want, I just wanted her to be off in imaginary land. I wanted her to keep living the life that she had gone off to live, and I didn't want to bring her back into the world. I really struggled with all the love triangle stuff, and I couldn't see how there wasn't a storyline that became about that. I just didn't see how it would ever be a story, just because of the nature of the show. It's about Clark, it's not about anybody else, really. I mean, it's also about Lex, it's a two-hander that way, but I just couldn't see how we come back and close this, like add another closure to the story where it wasn't just about Clark and Lois, you know?
Kristin.
Hi.
In the episode coming up to where you were going to be blown up in a truck at the very end of the season.
Right.
When you read the script for that, did you think that they were getting rid of the Lana character then? Or did you know you were coming back the next year?
I feel like I must have known, because I don't remember reading it like that. I mean, that was season 7, right?
Yeah.
So it was strike.
Yeah.
So it was the
Very
writer's
last
strike.
episode.
And I was going to go do a movie. So I was going to go do Street Fighter. I think they let me out a little early so that I could go shoot that movie. And so we had talked about it, and I knew that I was going to come back to close out a storyline in 8. That is the kind of the deal that we came to. So yeah, that's why I didn't have like I wasn't like, what's happening? I hope they wouldn't do it that way either. If they were going to kill somebody abruptly, I hope they would have a chat with them beforehand. But sometimes they don't.
You said you didn't want to come back for season 10, but when they did the homecoming, what did you think of the scene they chose for you? What are you, man or Superman from the first episode?
Oh, right. I don't know. I didn't see the last seasons of the show, so I don't know what I'm like Michael. I don't know what happens. What happened?
They did a homecoming where he came out and he was walking and he dropped something, and when he went to pick it up, he had a flashback of the first.
Oh, nice.
You doing the what are you?
I think that's nice because it ties back to the very beginning. Like, it's a beautiful circular ending for them. And for him, that is the right kind of closure for that part of the story that kind of calls her back but also lets her go.
Over here on the left.
Spider-Man.
How did you feel about Tom becoming Superman at the end of season 10?
I mean, that seems natural, right? They held off for 10 seasons. They really did it. But that's the culmination of that story. That's the end of Smallville and the beginning of the rest of his destiny. So I feel like that's a perfect ending for him to like become the superhero that he was always meant to be.
Hello.
Hi.
Do you feel yourself, and then with people you work with, is there any kind of special feeling about being involved in this whole Superman thing that, you know, some people come into a show and it's just another job or whatever? Do you personally, and then do you feel the people that you've worked with, wow, this is a bigger deal, at least to people like us who are here?
You know what? I feel like that feeling has grown. I mean, listen, I'm sitting here talking with all of you guys here today. We're, 2024? Yeah. We're a long time from the show. And I don't know if all of us understood when we were in it, what it meant and what Superman meant to people. But we certainly do now. And I think we have for many years at this point, but that understanding only deepens. And obviously at the time, our show airs 2001, right after 9/11. Like, it's a really important time in the history of the world. And I think that it really tied into the idea of Superman. It was just like this collision of current events and history of this character. And so we understood that, but I can't speak for everybody else, but again, I was young, and I think only now am I fully understanding the specialness. And I think we can relate to each other as cast members, as people who got to be involved in this show. We can relate to each other on a deeper level because of that understanding.
Question. I've watched the show through Smallville several times, but recently my wife watched it with me and finally talked her into sitting down and going through it. And over, as we're watching it, we're like, why doesn't Clark just tell Lana? Why doesn't he just, how do you think Lana would have handled it? I think she would have handled it well and been fine with it.
Of course. I agree. I always thought Lana would have handled it well, and I think that a lot of the reason why he didn't tell her, let's say character-wise, was because of his own insecurity and his own uncertainty and his own fears of not being loved or accepted. I mean, that makes sense. He's an alien from another planet. He's weird. You might not want to tell the person that you want validation from something that you think might alienate you from them. But I also think a part of why he never told her was just practical. If Lana had known story-wise, then what? Like, what do you do with that story? I think there are options, but the way that we were shooting TV at the time, if she had known, it would have altered the course of the show. And I think they needed him to be an outsider for as long as possible for the show to work, because that's what it was about. It was about being a teenager and being an outsider and being weird and not fitting in and feeling insecure and fumbling through puberty, and like that's what the show is about. And if the love of your life accepts you, or the love of your life at that time accepts you, then what? I don't know. I think that, anyway, that's my theory about it.
Do you have a favorite episode?
I've settled on a few that I say because I don't actually remember all the episodes, but I really loved shooting Lexmas, and I remember liking the episode itself, and I also really liked Requiem, which was a devastating episode, but it's a good episode. Yeah.
All right, we don't have a whole lot of time left, so we got a couple more questions. So make sure you raise your hands real big and tall here, and we get through a couple more. So back middle here.
Kristin, quick question.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a time where you felt threatened by a fan that's going past their boundaries or something?
Oh,
like stalking?
yes.
How did you handle it?
When it was back on set, it was security. We ended up having security on set. I had a stalker, once. There's a funny thing where, look, we're all fans of things. Like, we all love stuff. Like, I hope we are. That's part of what being human's about. Like, you are passionate about stuff, and it's beautiful. And if we're lucky, we get to relate to aspects of that thing that we love. I think when we go too far, it's like we build, and I think in this day and age with social media, and we all have accounts and we can all communicate with each other, I think this is even more prevalent, where we think we know people deeply, even though we don't know them deeply, and build an imaginary relationship with that person, and then that person disappoints you. And then when it's a destructive thing, it becomes kind of angry when that person disappoints you, and that's when it can get scary. But other than that, and I think that's not super common, I don't think that's the norm. I think that we can have these relationships with each other and understand the nature of those relationships and build them within the confines of that. But yes, I've had a few experiences, but the vast majority of my experiences are like this: positive, fruitful, we can have good conversations, we can kind of meet each other from different places, different points, different viewpoints. We don't all have the same political beliefs. We don't all have the same, we don't live in the same parts of the world. We're in different, economic conditions. We are different races and backgrounds, and it's beautiful that we get to share that with each other, tied together by this television show. That's really special. And I think that's the majority of what this experience is.
Hello. I was just wondering, Lois comes in like a wrecking ball, and she's so strong and assertive and bold, and Lana is confident and assertive in her own very different way. It's much more subtle, and so many girls related to that, I think.
Oh, it's lovely.
And then she hit her woman-scorned timeline and really changed. And I think that for a lot of girls watching that throughout that period of time, were influenced by the different levels of Lana. And I was wondering if you were aware of that at the time that you were filming.
No, I don't think I was. That's lovely to hear. I mean, I do think, because Lana's, I relate to this in Lana, I think. But she was strong, but she also had a lot of crap that she was dealing with. And she swallowed it. She swallowed a lot of things, and she held it in. And I think a lot of women do that. We keep that anger, and we keep that kind of contained. And if we don't face it or deal with it or find ways to heal it or to say the things that we don't want to say or to express it, sometimes it comes out in maybe more destructive ways. So, I mean, it's interesting she did go through a big journey, and she worked really hard to get to a place of peace. And I think I appreciate that other women would have, or girls and women would have been going through that as well. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Kristin.
Hi.
First, I love you. Second,
Oh, thank you.
2 questions. Do you miss Lana? First one. And how is your relationship with the character Superman now? Do you watch some episodes of Superman and Lois, the new movies? How is your relationship?
It's funny. I think doing these conventions, I think about Lana more than I ever have since I left the show. And a few years back, someone had asked me like, what would Lana's favorite book be? And I really took it to heart. I thought about it for months. And I was just reading a book, and I was like, oh gosh, this is Lana's book. Like, I just saw so many themes of her in it. And so I guess to answer your question, yes, there are ways in which I miss her. She's a very interesting character. And I wish I was more, like, I think I was conscious of it then, but now looking back, I'm even more aware of the layers of her that exist. So yes, I do miss her. I'm curious about her. I'm curious about where she's at and what she's chosen to do with her life. I'm also a sucker for like a tragic love story.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Kristin,
yes.
When that show first came out, you became a breakout star. Did you realize that happening?
Yes, I guess. I don't think I would have called it that necessarily, but listen, my life changed. I love my anonymity. I literally was no longer anonymous. I was not just a person on the street. A lot of people didn't watch the show, and there were lots of people who didn't know who I was, but anywhere I went, I knew that I would be watched. Anywhere.
Now, you mentioned about like running away. Did you feel like you were one of the Beatles?
No. Definitely not that famous. And it's true, and I wasn't a cute boy with like a young female following. That's intense.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, one more question.
We got one back there.
On my way.
Hi.
Hello.
Is the last question?
Last question.
I'm from Spain. I'm Carlos. I don't speak English.
Great.
But I love you.
Thank you.
Only.
That's it.
What a way to end it. Kristin, from the bottom of our hearts, I don't think we can express to you, I mean, speak on behalf of so many, what Smallville and some of your other work has meant to us in our lives. We appreciate you so much for being here. Everyone, she's going to be here this afternoon. She's going to be here tomorrow. Autographs, pictures. Make sure you stop by, say hi. We thank you so much. One more round of applause, everybody.
I want to get it. Oh, you have me in it. Okay, thanks.